for those firing up the grill this summer is going to get more costly, especially if you're cooking up some beef. The latest numbers from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics show that prices have climbed to record highs, with the average price of...
As we fire up the barbecue, the price of that burger is up, and it's only expected to go higher. The reason beef prices are climbing...
$5 billion in lost orders. That's the gut punch U.S. ranchers felt when ports across Asia turned back entire shiploads of American beef and pork. In the same week, Canadian packers quietly secured a record contract worth almost as much. Now their maple leaf logo is on menus from Tokyo's Ginza to Seoul's Gangnam. Back home, the shock was immediate. Ground beef jumped $1.90 a tray. Bacon neared $10 a pound. Grocers warned of another 15% hike before Labor Day. How did Washington's tariff gamble misfire so badly that Canada, not Texas, is suddenly feeding half the Pacific Rim? And what does that mean for your next backyard cookout? Tonight, we follow the rejected steaks, expose hidden choke points in the supply chain, and show how a single policy memo could shake a $200 billion farm economy. Stick around. The final question might rewrite your grocery list. Is America still in charge of its own dinner? The pivot began on March 27, 2023, when Tokyo quietly lifted a 20-year ban on Canadian processed beef, reopening a $518 million Canadian dollar gateway to Asia's top spenders. 2 years later, Statistics Canada reported a 13.1% jump in meat exports to Japan. Proof the gate became a conveyor belt. Tokyo's reversal made headlines across Asia, and steakhouses from Osaka to Okinawa swapped U.S. prime for maple leaf overnight. That conveyor belt is fueled by trouble south of the border. In April, Beijing hit U.S. beef with a new 125% tariff, forcing barbecue chains in China's capital to drop Texas brisket for cheaper Canadian cuts. Containers once stamped Nebraska choice now return half empty, while Asian cold stores fill with red and white cartons. Industry groups warn that if Beijing lets hundreds of U.S. plant licenses expire this summer, the backlog could grow into a full-blown supply crisis. Up north, Manitoba ranchers already treat the U.S. as a risky buyer, striking new deals with Korean and Filipino importers before the next tariff hits. Some farms are adding on-site chillers, so buyers can load directly in Winnipeg, skip the border, and avoid extra fees. If that workaround sticks, American supermarkets could soon pay Canadian middlemen for meat that used to come straight from Iowa. Proof that one policy memo can shift who feeds the Pacific Rim. On March 5, 2025, the U.S. Meat Export Federation reported that pork exports used 100.7 million bushels of domestic soybeans in 2024, adding $1.12 billion to farm income. The same shipments tacked an extra 59 cents onto each bushel of corn, a lifeline for many Midwest farmers during drought and high fuel prices. But that cushion is already slipping away. Since Beijing signaled on March 14th that export licenses for nearly 1,000 U.S. meat plants could expire, Asian buyers have rushed to Canadian packers, fearing sudden rejections. Chicago traders say if even half those Chinese orders vanish, soybean demand could drop by 50 million bushels, enough to erase last year's entire price bump. Corn would follow. Losing that 59-cent boost could strip nearly $3 billion from this year's harvest value. Meanwhile, Manitoba ranchers are locking in contracts in Canadian dollars with guaranteed slots on Asia-bound ships, deals U.S. feedlots once took for granted. If that shift holds through harvest, American elevators could open this fall with more soy and corn than they can move, triggering a fire sale echoing the 2018 tariff crash. Farmers call it the second punch after the export shutdown. And it all starts with meat boxes turned away at foreign docks. A policy meant to punish rivals is now rippling through the grains that feed American livestock, turning a once reliable export windfall into a glut nobody wants. 3 dates tell the story. On March 27, 2025, USDA export logs showed just 54 metric tons of U.S. beef booked for China, down from over 2,000 tons per week a month earlier. Beijing let hundreds of plant licenses lapse overnight. The 97% drop stunned Midwestern packers. The message was clear: find new buyers or stop the trucks. Most couldn't. Freezers backed up, cold chain stalled, storage bills piled up, and some plants cut slaughter shifts to limit losses. American shoppers felt it fast. By February 28, 2025, average ground beef prices in U.S. cities were already up 43% compared to early 2020. A family that spent $8 on taco night 5 years ago now pays almost $12. Sticker shock hits hardest in lower-income neighborhoods, where pork and beef once stretched paychecks the furthest. School lunch programs are rewriting menus, swapping beef for cheaper chicken. Supply can't fill the gap because America's cattle herd is at a 74-year low after droughts. Feedlots are empty, replacement herds are scarce, and even Tyson Foods is bleeding money while ranchers rebuild, a process that takes 2 years, not 2 quarters. Canada sees an opening. Every ton China rejects is an invite north of the border. Manitoba packers are adding double shifts. Saskatchewan rail yards are stacking refrigerated containers. Japanese buyers are paying premiums to lock in next season's quota before Washington reacts. The longer U.S. licenses stay frozen, the more Canada cements its place on Asia's dinner tables. If Beijing extends its block in July, analysts warn the U.S. could lose another $1 billion in beef sales by year-end, damage that tariffs alone can't undo. The export collapse is now hitting Main Street. At its May 5, 2025 briefing, Tyson Foods reported an 8.2% jump in beef prices for Q2. Shoppers fled to cheaper chicken, tanking Tyson's stock by 9% overnight. It's a cost supermarkets must absorb or pass straight to you. Cattle prices are squeezing margins so tight that Tyson CEO called it the toughest market we've ever seen, a line Wall Street hasn't forgotten. Why so brutal? The U.S. cattle herd is the smallest since 1951, forcing feedlots to outbid each other for every steer. That bidding war is already pushing up consumer prices. Wholesale beef was up 10.1% in May, the biggest jump for any staple protein. Fast food chains are shrinking burger patties. Grocery stores update shelf tags weekly. School districts are swapping taco beef for chicken because budgets can't keep up with rising invoices. Meanwhile, diners in Tokyo and Seoul are cutting into Canada Prime steaks that once shipped out of Seattle. Every pound Canada sells deepens the gap on U.S. shelves. If the drought drags on and tariffs stay, your holiday roast could become a luxury, not a tradition. In short, Washington's trade gamble has turned into a grocery aisle tax, and the meter is still running. And it's not just beef. Next come soybeans, corn, and feedlots, and the final bill could dwarf today's sticker shock. The pain at the grocery store is just the start. While U.S. officials argue over tariffs, Ottawa is moving fast to rewrite North America's meat trade. Reuters reported on February 28 that 75% of Canadian beef usually heads south. But prairie ranchers are cutting herd sizes instead of rebuilding, spooked by Washington's threat of a 25% border tax. They won't spend on calves they can't sell overnight. On March 7th, Ottawa stepped in with a $6.5 billion relief package, including $1 billion for cold storage and refrigerated rail so packers can ship straight to Asia without crossing U.S. soil. Subsidized steel and freezer cars are already lining up in Saskatchewan, giving Japanese buyers door-to-door service that bypasses the U.S. Meanwhile, America's response? Cost cutting. On December 2nd, Tyson shut its beef and pork plant in Emporia, Kansas, wiping out 800 jobs. The latest sign that demand gaps are closing plants from 3 shifts a day to 1, or none. Industry insiders say if China keeps the license freeze past August, at least 4 more Midwest plants could go dark by Thanksgiving. Iowa feedlots are turning away new cattle. Minnesota corn elevators are hunting offshore buyers for a looming grain surplus. Canada is subsidizing conveyor belts to grab U.S. orders while America boards up slaughterhouses, hoping tariffs will somehow reverse the trade flow. If policy doesn't flip soon, Canada will own the Pacific Rim protein market, and U.S. ranchers could see their best calves priced out of both foreign and domestic markets. Picture this. Christmas lights come on, and the meat case doesn't carry a single product of USA sticker. That's not hype, it's the path we're on. Canada moved fast, built bigger freezers, and stamped its brand on a region that now trusts it. Washington tied itself in red tape and fired a tariff straight at its own boot. If Capitol Hill can't untangle logistics and align safety codes before the next buying season, America's $200 billion protein empire could see a century of dominance thaw in a single fiscal year. One lifeline remains, a North America-Asia standards pact that cuts paperwork and moves meat at Canadian speed. So, will the stars and stripes fight for your Friday steak? Or does the maple leaf keep setting the table? This was just the beginning. Hit that subscribe button and buckle up. Digital Garage has so much more in store.